Justice Breyer retiring, the Supreme Court justice and the Supreme Court would never, ever go on the side of the working class. So you have people fear mongering about the Supreme Court. I'm like, dude, stop. When has the Supreme Court ever been pro-black? When has the Supreme Court ever been pro-worker? You guys know Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the neoliberal queen? She used the doctrine of discovery multiple times to side with oil companies in exploration and terrorism. You guys don't know the doctrine of discovery is about colonizer and the Supreme Court ever been pro-worker. That's what they use to justify the genocide against the English language. The idea that we have to legal claim genocide. So, who made a case? You guys know who made a case. They use that pressure to side with the corporation against the indigenous people. That's the liberal justice, guys. I get the conservative justice of Seder. I get it. But the liberal justice take it easy. I'll show you guys this. They want to first. Well, the whole point is I didn't trust no violence Supreme Court either.
All right, let's do this. Get this day started, right, guys? Chat set up. Gonna get this sent out to Minds, and we can begin. All right, let's welcome the Stony Progressive. Want to get this started nice and slow, then we'll jump in later to the Jackson and Sam debate. At the end of the show, we're going to talk about our Australian brother protests on their national recognition day, and I think I'm going to have to go through the politician that Nancy got bailed out by on the Abby Martin situation. That was a fantastic clip. And so much more tonight, but we're going to start out with some crypto news while we get settled in, guys. And the Federal Reserve System had an announcement today. So this is the end of their announcement, and then our boy George's finish.
Real quick. It's funny how you just said in 25 years we'll look back if they made the right decision, meaning going so hard into supporting the recovery, which you mentioned is the greatest right now. That's a kind of interesting perspective. Okay, real quick to answer a few super chats because people said they couldn't hear me. Number one is, all right, Axiom Music, I saw that super chat. Step, you said that, hey, calling manipulated meaning you don't understand. Selling rate hikes is bad for risk assets. That's already been priced in. We've been talking about that for a few months now. Yet he's saying that he doesn't know when they will do so or how much. It all depends on economic conditions. So it's all wait and see right now. So nothing is guaranteed. And this is what we want to see in a dovish stance, right? Because there's nothing set. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense anyways. Gio says we need direction, not kick the can down the road, right? Maybe that's the reason why. But still, seems weird. Really, really weird. A dump could be related to U.S. giving Russia a written response to their demands on Ukraine. Maybe. My favorite Jerome Powell quote of the day, there are three types of Federal Reserve chairmen, those who can count, those who can't, and I'm in fourth category. All right, let's get back to it.
Can I follow up real quick and ask if it did invert, would you tie it to U.S. fundamentals, or would it be driven by a much broader set of factors?
That's a good question in real time. Obviously, U.S. long-term sovereign debt is an important global asset, and the fact that our rates are so much higher than other risk-free sovereign rates around the world may put something like a ceiling on our rates. I don't know, but it would really depend on the facts and circumstances at that time.
Thank you. Let's go to Brian Chung for the last question.
Last question.
Chairman Powell, Brian Chung, Yahoo Finance. Within the context of just the broad effort to normalize rates, would you describe what you want to do as a gradual hiking? And then secondly, within the context of hiking cycles, it's often the talking point for financial stability and wanting to make sure that asset bubbles don't emerge. Is that something that has also factored into the
Look at this guy showing off his sneakers in the background and that Durant jersey.
Describe what we're doing along these lines. This is going to be a year in which we move steadily away from the very highly accommodative monetary policy that we put in place to deal with the economic effects of the pandemic. And that's going to involve a number of things. It's going to involve, and it does involve, finishing asset purchases. It's going to involve lifting off, and it's going to involve additional rate increases as appropriate. And we're going to write down in March our next assessment of what that might be. It's going to continue to evolve as the data evolve. We need to be quite adaptable, I think, in our understanding of this. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to have a couple more meetings, I think, to talk about allowing the balance sheet to begin to run off and do so in a predictable manner. And that's something that we will also be doing as appropriate. And I wouldn't, I don't think it's possible to say exactly how this is going to go, and we're going to need to be, as I mentioned, nimble about this. And the economy is quite different this time. I've said this several times now. The economy is quite different. It's stronger. Inflation is higher. The labor market is much stronger than it was, and growth is above trend even this year, let alone last year. So all of those things are going to go into our thinking as we make monetary policy. And we also have financials to have concerns in connection with our policy. Was that your question?
Yeah, within the context of other hiking cycles, it seems like worries about asset bubbles emerging as a result of easy rates has been part of that. I didn't know if that was part of the discussion today.
I would just say this. We, of course, have a financial stability framework. And what it shows is a number of positive aspects of financial stability. But you mentioned really asset prices is one of the four. So asset prices are somewhat elevated, and they reflect a high risk appetite and that sort of thing. I don't really think asset prices themselves represent a significant threat to financial stability, and that's because households are in good shape financially than they have been. Businesses are in good shape financially. Defaults on business loans are low and that kind of thing. The banks are highly capitalized with high liquidity, and quite BC has made some very positive proposals there. And we also saw some things in the Treasury market during the acute phase of the crisis, which we're looking at ways to address. But overall, the financial stability vulnerabilities are manageable, I would say.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wow, that just ended real quick right there. No parting words or anything. All right. So what did we learn from that? First of all, I'd like to invite Gina onto the show, and if she accepts, I'll make sure that there's no technical difficulty there. I'm really surprised they actually gave her her question back, or put her back in line. Anyways, bottom line is this. This doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, okay? We already know that rate hikes and everything is on the table. We expected some hawkish news about dates, the amount, right? What's going to happen with the balance sheet? How is the Fed going to handle it? Are they going to be active in terms of selling off or passive, just letting things expire? We didn't get a whole lot of anything. I think this is a fake out. I mean, I just think this makes no sense whatsoever. We got the most dovish news from this meeting, the one that everyone pegged to be the one that will bring markets down. Yet he is saying he's cognizant of the labor market. He wants to make sure it's strong. He wants to keep it strong. He wants to make sure that other things like supply chain gets improved. He wants to make sure that financial markets are also improving, because he doesn't want that to cause people to have financial hardships. So, I mean, he's looking at everything. He's looking at everything, yet giving a whole lot of nothing in return. So this sell-off right here makes no sense at all. And I would not be surprised later today we get a huge recovery upwards and continue on, because it really makes no sense. It makes no sense whatsoever. But sometimes the market is like that, right? Sometimes the market is very, very reactive, and sometimes the market is manipulated. I mean, like right now we're starting.
This was from 8 hours ago. This was when the the Fed announced earlier this afternoon. He'd finished an hour-long live stream like 40 minutes before they started their announcement. So this wasn't a full stream for him.
We're starting to see some green here. We're starting to see volume. Let's see if we can just see this pump right back up. Because I think this is just a giant fake out right here. The whale's making you think that this is bad news, and they want everyone to, as a last-ditch effort, to sell off before we come back up. Because based on what I just heard, I took notes. I took a lot of notes there. And there was just a whole lot of nothingness right there that was announced. So, yeah, I don't know what else to say. I mean, it's... Atima says, why does U.S. stick to money printing? Just because of COVID or because of Russia and Ukraine? They're afraid of something? I think it's more complicated than that, but they printed money to give out because they forced many businesses to close down. They forced many people to go out of work. That's why they printed so much money to give out. And also they start buying bonds from companies to make sure they don't go under. So there's a lot of reasons why, but we're kind of past that now. What is important is inflation, and that's the number one thing. And according to Powell, he thinks that inflation could be curbed through a number of means. Number one is improving supply chain, which definitely will, but that's harder because that's not in our control, right? Supply chain is all over, worldwide. China has a lot of supply chain issues, so that's going to affect consumer goods coming into the U.S. So that's harder. But then he also mentioned fiscal policy. And I was looking at, I'm like, what does fiscal policy mean? And how does that compare to monetary policy? Well, fiscal policy could include taxes and tax breaks and how much money they're spending. So that could mean that, hey, maybe there's more tax breaks that's coming along too. So he did mention that. I'm not quite sure how fiscal policy improves inflation or will decrease it. But, another thing he mentioned is, 25, he did mention that the growth, the recovery in the U.S. is faster than any country out there. And that's due to the amount of money that the Fed put into the recovery. However, he did say that in 25 years, we'll look back upon this time and determine whether or not this was the right move, because this is an unprecedented time with unprecedented printing, and you know what? This is why we're in the situation we're in, right? So you can see the greens coming in, right? This is what I was saying. This dump didn't make any sense at all. It didn't make any sense, but we'll see. The day is still young, right? Can we see a big recovery back? Sure we can. Sure we can. Can you check out? No, this is not time to check out anything on Coinbase. Basically, all the new additions recently has been jumped. Bought my first BTC, heard me to sell some. Okay. Sean, Charles released a video earlier about devastating crypto policy. Okay. There's too many people that's paying attention to what he's saying. Okay. I didn't look at it, but okay. I've been warned 100 times now. I will get to it, but it has nothing to do with what's going on right now. And whatever's being introduced probably won't be introduced for another year, because we know how the U.S. government works, and there's a lot of back and forth. Just like an infrastructure bill that was so feared upon, now it's just like no one's talking about it, because there's still a lot of time before it can get changed or amended. Discord API is annoying. I have no idea about that. Let's see. I mean, there's like 19,000 people in here. This is the most I've ever seen in a live stream. So thanks for tuning in. Smash a like, subscribe to the channel. Bottom line is, I
did catch this live, and then rewatched it up to the point where I wanted to catch this, and we'll just let him finish up because this is my soft intro. But yeah, this was, instead of just having something in the background, I wanted this to be the soft intro. Now that we got a few people on here, maybe we'll get our first big story coming up.
Thought that there would be this Nothing Burger conference would bring more pumps. Hey, you know what? We can still see it. We can still see it, right? Bottom line, what I've been stressing is DCA. The only sure thing when it comes to markets is DCA into the right crypto, including Bitcoin and many of the L1s and many of the others that have huge promise, right? The only thing we can be sure of is this. If you hold and you have patience, that's how you win, right? Despite the volatility, I've been stressing this, despite the fact that so many people sold off completely, claiming that the world was basically going to end financially. You know what? We got through it so far. First meeting. First meeting. We got many more to go, but this first one basically said a whole lot of nothing. A whole lot of nothing. So we just have to wait until next month to see if they say something.
That's why I skipped to the end. There was a whole lot of jibber jabber and not a lot of point.
More because it was nothing determined. Basically, he just said all they talked about was top level stuff. all the stuff that are generalities and nothing specific. Next month, they're going to talk about it more, and then it could possibly go into the next month, which is March, and then we'll see what happens then.
They figure something out in our favor. Crypto could do some pretty good stuff. April like last year. But I don't know that much. I am a knob, which is why I'm showing you somebody who knows something. I don't know a whole lot of anything about this subject.
Okay. All right, guys, I'll let you go. Let you digest this. That was quite long Q&A, but ultimately, I think this is what we wanted. I think this is exactly what we wanted. And hopefully the fear should be dissipating after this meeting. But we will see. We will see. All right? I'll see you guys tonight. I'll have more thoughts, and everyone that keeps talking about what Charles is saying, let me take a look at what he's saying. If Armageddon is coming, I don't know, but I'll take a look. All right, guys, smash the like, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys tonight, 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. That's my go-to crypto hangout. It goes twice a day. As far as the East Coast time edge, it is going to be 11 and 8 o'clock. I usually try to Bitcoin R Us is the tag. So check him out. I do for my Bitcoin news, my Bitcoin strategies, and he is worth a go. Since we got a few people joining, I'm going to go ahead and jump into Jackson versus Sam today. I did watch it live. I did watch it a second time on 1.5 for some interesting takes, and I have quite a lot of info on it today. He streamed for 4 hours, about a half hour before the actual event, and then another 2 hours after his debate. And I'm not going to go through that all, but we can absolutely go through the beginning. Not the beginning. So there was one part today. I think it kind of trended for a few minutes on Twitter. Mutegate, and this was the setup. I wanted to show the first kind of snappy tanglements, these first battles that happened, and then into this went the mute, the blackout, and then the comeback. And while this was happening, Jackson, you'll watch what Jackson's reaction was. You felt something, so I went ahead and started looking up Sam's channel. He had about 4,500 viewers, and their reactions were pretty interesting. So I'm going to do that back to back. I already watched this twice today, so sorry if I am going to keep myself in the background. But Jackson's setup and kind of battle with Sam Seder, who plays the voice of Hugo for Bob's Burgers, and then his going into the blackout and muting. And then when we come back, we'll do the Sam's section just of the muting. We don't have to do the setup because we heard both of their sides of that. And I don't know. I listen to Jackson. He's fine. He's great. If you can agree with somebody 75% of the time, that's all you can really hope on. If you can agree with somebody 75% of the time, that is somebody you can come and listen to and come to terms with.
Have issues with votes that they have taken at times. They are the most progressive members of.
He's talking about the progressive members of conference, the squad, and Jackson's questioning him on why and how he does certain things. And this is their first real battle in about the first 20 minutes here.
The Democratic Party, and until there's more progressive people who are more progressive than them, they're the best we have. I don't get attached to politicians like you seem to have felt like you're scorned by them in some way, and I just don't care. I don't think politicians have principles.
Oh yes, the I don't care. That's the hashtag, and this guy I think we need to do a Hugo, but the I don't care is he dropped him. I had to count him. Like the second time through, I had to count him because when you came off the debate, he says it under his breath a few times, and he says it right in your face. And I don't care. I don't care.
I think they go in and they get the best that they can do. Sometimes I think that they make mistakes because they're not smart. Sometimes I think some of them are just completely sold out. I think there's a lot of sellouts in Congress. In fact, Ilhan Omar was on the program last week, and she specifically said there's a lot of people.
I think Jackson could have nodded his head and agreed with him there. That would have been a very class act thing to do right there. Personally, I agreed with him completely right there. I had to give, if I took a scorecard, I took a scorecard of reasonable points. I took a scorecard of when they were just rude to each other, and you got to give them a scorecard on that, right? Like, that was a good point.
Who claim in progressive, who are corporatists now. And I don't know who exactly she meant. I have some ideas. I suspect Nancy Pelosi was one of them. And so I don't get attached in the way you do. So your notion of my support for them, I didn't donate to AOC. I didn't get as attached to them as you did. I take them, they are politicians. I look for the most progressive politicians who are in a position to either win or to implement policy. And yes, they have largely failed. Joe Biden has failed. The Senate has failed. The Senate leadership has failed. I think Pelosi failed. I think it was a mistake for them to vote for the bipartisan infrastructure bill. The Progressive Caucus has failed. In fact, I think that, one of the things that I'm hoping, and, to the extent that I can pressure, there's only so much pressure I can bring to bear on politicians.
Yeah, that was a perfectly timed beep. He should have stopped right there, because you can't disagree with him on that point. But he does not stop. He doesn't stop.
But one of the things that I'm hoping that they do is that they actually implement some voting requirements, some litmus tests to be a Progressive Caucus member.
I think that
he will agree with him here.
It's a great idea. But Sam, first of all, you just said a lot there. So
that idea. You know who brought up that idea on this program?
I have brought up that you brought that idea up on this program. I brought it up on my program as well. I know you've said that
on this program.
You said it during your first Force the Vote video. Actually, you said that maybe it's time that we tell members of the CPC that they should have to support a vote on Medicare for all on the House floor if they want to be a part of it. I think that's a great idea. I just wish you would continue holding them accountable like you did then. Anyways, but you said that I'm too...
Hold them accountable then.
Sam, I just let you talk for so long.
How did I hold them accountable then?
You want to go into this?
Jackson, what do you think is going on here?
This is the first little battle here. You gotta love it. Real first spat they start going, and it like once they get going, they both just kind of they stay off. I don't know.
You held them accountable back then by going out on your program and saying stuff like
influencing them?
We could push House progressive members to leverage their votes. It is worth it right now, tweeting at some of the top progressives, people who are supported by the Justice Democrats and the Squad. The more of a stink we make, the easier it is for progressives to leverage it because they can simply say, look, I have my own pressures, so I think it's a good idea to do this, to force this vote.
Yeah.
So why did you not say that or make a stink about this during the vote on the adoption of House rules or the congressional budget or the American Rescue Plan Act or the For the People Act or increasing the Capitol Police and Security budget or the 12% increase in the State Department and USAID? No, I'm not done. 12% increase in the State Department and USAID funding that they all voted for. The Legislative Appropriations Act, Combating International Islamophobia Act, all of these things, the Infrastructure Act, increasing government funding, all of these things, Sam, I'm done, but let me just finish. I let you talk for so long and I don't interrupt you. I just expect a little bit of respect in return. All of these things.
He did. We listened to him talk for plenty.
Things were passed by a margin of roughly 6 to 10 votes in the House. These are all things that the progressives could have banded together, or in some cases banded together to stop and get concessions in return. Sam, please stop interrupting me. Please stop interrupting me.
Jackson, you listed off a bunch of votes that you presume I'm against.
No.
I have a problem with the State Department getting more funding.
No, we don't. You don't have a problem with that?
With the State Department getting funding? No.
A 12% increase.
A 12% increase, 11% increase, 13% increase?
You don't have a problem with the State Department, who is, leading coups across this world, who is launching hybrid warfare through the National Endowment for Democracy in countries all across this world, like Venezuela, like you just mentioned, that you said you had a problem with warmongering and sanctions on.
This turns into one of the two most cringe moments of it.
Venezuela, you don't have a problem with the 12% increase to the State Department when they could be getting concessions for progressive policies in return?
What concession?
Any concession. Do you know how closely that State Department vote passed? Do you even know the vote?
No.
It was 217 to 212. AOC, Tlaib, and Bush voted no. Presley, Omar, Bowman, Jayapal, Khanna, Lee, and Porter voted yes. So had 3 more progressives who voted yes voted no, they would have been able to defeat the measure temporarily, or forever, because I don't support an increase in the State Department, unlike you. And they could have blocked it temporarily and gotten concessions in return.
Increased on the State Department budget.
So why don't you think it was a good idea to at least temporarily delay the passage of that to get concessions?
What I had more of an issue with was the...
No, wait, I want to hear you answer that.
Organization. Like, I don't care, Jackson. I don't care. I do not share your concern about the 12% increase in the State Department budget. I'm
not asking you to care about that. I'm asking you to care about the fact that they could have delayed that. They chose not to. And by choosing not to, they abandoned an opportunity to get a...
That when I was watching this, I live tweeted that, like, he is a D-list. Sam Seder is a D-list actor who should not be doing commentary on politics, but we have to attack him because at 1.2 million followers, he has a voice in politics. When he says he doesn't care about the capital budget going up by 12% at all, doesn't even get mad about being questioned, that is not a person that should be talking to a million people about politics. No.
Progressive concession in return. Why didn't...
What concession are you talking about?
Any progressive concession. You've listed things like getting better committee assignments.
Wait. So you think they're going to get a better committee assignment if they hold up the vote on a State Department budget?
That's what you've said in the past regarding the speakership vote. I think there's other progressive concessions they could have gotten in return. I think, they could have gotten votes on given policies. I think they could have gotten Biden's agenda potentially.
To me.
What about, Sam, listen, what about a $15 minimum wage for all Americans? That's not even a progressive agenda item. That's something Biden ran on.
Minimum wage?
Yes.
Not get through the Senate, Jackson.
But don't you think it would be important to at the least get a vote on that in the House?
I suppose. I think everybody said they're for it. It's not going anywhere.
So why don't you support the squad delaying these bills, all the ones I just listed that passed by a small margin of votes, smaller than the squad themselves?
Things are not terribly relevant in the final analysis. What are the problems with, let's say, force the vote? You wanted to talk about that. You've quoted me from a video in which I initially talked about force the vote. Do we have that video? Play that video. Play a clip of that video, and I'm gonna tell you what exactly what happened with.
You need to look at the video to remember what you said.
It was a year ago, Jackson.
I guess your opinions have shifted a lot since then.
Well, I've also done 300 shows since then. All right, here's the video. My only caveat about this
getting catty with each other doesn't work out for either of you.
Is that I don't know how well it's going to do in a vote. I think it's going to get the majority of Democrats, I would imagine, if it was to take the vote taken. But it's also like, is that the best ask? Is it a better ask? We want more progressives on this committee, or we want more progressives on that committee. But for the time being, and I need to read more into it, but I think the idea is that it is worth, right now, I think, this is one of those people who Twitter actually means something. All right, so now, Jackson, let me tell you what happened after that.
Can you hear me? My camera froze for some reason. You can hear me, though?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
So let me tell you what happened at that point.
All right, this is the beginning of Mutegate. It goes from froze to black screen, no screen for him, to they mute him, to they lose him. This is the progression. So this is why I started with the fight that started it. If he did get cut, if Sam did cut him, it was because of the fight. So the fight that started it to this build up here.
I was talking to some people, and nobody in a congressional thing, but activists on this, and people who were involved in Medicare for All were like, it's going to be bad. We're going to lose 300 plus to 100. It's going to be bad for Medicare for All. And I was like, well, at this point, it's quite clear that the campaign for force the vote had already basically taken off, and at that point, Did we just lose him?
No, I'm still here. My camera just went out. I don't know what happened.
Is that on your end? Because I can actually see me in your camera.
Yeah, no, it must be his.
It's on my end.
Anyways, all right. So, and at that point, I realized, like, okay, well, I'm not going to stay in the way of this thing because let 1,000 flowers bloom was my feeling. It was a dumb ask to have a vote. I'm watching myself 4 times 4. It was a dumb ask, in my opinion, to have a vote for something that was going to lose. And I think that we definitely saw the failure, even if it had won. I think it would, it wouldn't have gone anywhere in the Senate. But for it to lose so badly would have been a dumb thing to do. And then all of a sudden it became this sort of litmus test. If the squad is not using this to do a dumb performative act, then they're sellouts. And that was the only time that I actually even started to speak out against the force of the vote. I'm not even sure if I did, maybe we talked about it once at that point. And the next time I talked about it was on a show I was invited on, which at the time I was invited on was called, what was it, Putting Force the Vote to Bed, I think it was. By the time I ended that show, it had been a debate, but that was weeks after it had failed. So the reason why I didn't hold them to getting committee positions with that vote at that point was because the whole thing had taken off as Medicare for All and had become, someone's sort of pet project to make it about some type of litmus test for the squad to push for Medicare for All, which I thought was a really bad idea.
All right. Well, you know what's interesting about that putting force the vote to bed debate? I don't know if you still believe this, but one of the reasons you put forward for not supporting force the vote was you said, let's say Nancy Pelosi says, fine, don't vote for me. The Dems lose the speakership because you're not going to get that 218 people to coalesce around another person. You're going to end up getting McCarthy. Do you still believe the lie that Kevin McCarthy would become Speaker of the House if we tried to force the vote?
I have no idea what would have happened, to be totally honest with you, because there was no other candidate to run for Speaker of the House.
But you do understand it would have taken Democrats voting for Kevin McCarthy or a large number of people abstaining from voting altogether rather than voting for someone else to.
So it gets real livid, gets real angry right here. Our tempers get a little high.
To end up with Kevin McCarthy as Speaker?
Well, I don't know. Let's say they held out. What happens on day 2 or 3?
You keep taking more rounds of voting.
Do people abstain?
No, you keep taking more rounds of voting.
How do you know Josh Gottheimer doesn't abstain? How do you know?
There's historical precedent for this.
There's historical precedent for what? Henry Cuellar?
For a House speakership vote that went 12 rounds.
Yeah, well, how do you know that Josh Gottheimer is not going to abstain? How do you know that Henry Cuellar is not going to abstain?
Because that would mean a Democrat is voting for a Republican. That's not going to happen.
Have you seen Henry Cuellar's voting record?
I have, and I've seen AOC's, which falls pretty much all in line with Nancy Pelosi's, too.
Right, well, Henry Cuellar's doesn't.
The fact of the matter is they were not going to vote for a Republican. The Democratic establishment would not allow that to happen. And the fact that you're thinking that there's some sort of practicality in this argument that Henry Cuellar or Gottheimer would have voted for Kevin McCarthy as Speaker is actually insane. Like, that's actually insane.
Okay.
So if you understand, though, the principle behind forced vote, and maybe you have problems with the Medicare for this forced vote. Jesus Christ, Sam, let me finish before you interrupt me. I know my camera's not on, it broke, but let me at least finish what I'm saying. If you understand that forced vote is a strategy that could be carried out, and you've said this in the past, you just think maybe Medicare for All wasn't the best ask, or the speakership vote was too risky because you don't understand how a speakership vote works, then why didn't you support forcing the vote on any of the other policies I listed, or criticize the squad for not forcing the vote on those policies?
Okay, let's not use the word force the vote, because
what do you want to call it?
Why didn't they use their leverage?
I know that phrase is triggering to you. So why didn't they use their leverage?
Why didn't they use their leverage now? How do you know that they didn't?
Because they voted for these bills without getting concessions in return.
How do you know?
Because there are no substantive large material changes that we have seen. There's nothing that the squad has been able. There's nothing. You just asked me a question. Let me finish. You just asked me a question. Let me finish.
You said there's no.
You just asked me a question. Do you want to finish or not?
You know what's in the Build Back Better bill? You know what's in the Build Back Better bill?
The one that didn't pass?
No, the one that did pass. It passed in the House.
Was it signed into law? I must have missed it.
But Jackson, we're talking about House members, yes?
Well, what is the point of...
Are we talking about House members or are we talking about people in the Senate?
What is the point?
Are we talking about Joe Manchin or are we talking about AOC? You said that Joe Manchin is worse than AOC. That AOC is more progressive. They're different people.
Yeah, take down a House member in a little bit. That'll be midway of the show, guys. Take down a House member.
They're two different houses. You understand how that works?
You want to hear the incredible thing, Sam? You want to hear the understand that there are two separate chambers of Congress, Sam? You want to hear the incredible thing?
Hold on 1 second, Jackson.
Let me answer the initial question you asked.
I'll answer this. Let me play this. Hold on 1 second, Jackson. Give me 1 second. Will you play the end of this, the Ilhan Omar thing? Because I thought this was sort of interesting. Because I think it's possible that Jackson doesn't quite understand certain dynamics. Bradley, do you have that? Play this last clip. Because
yeah, it goes real bad real quick.
I tuned into this, or I gotta be fair, somebody sent this to me. And I was curious because Jackson had done a video on our interview with Ilhan Omar and said it was shocking. And I was like, was it? Did we do something that was shocking in the interview? But play the end of this, and this is what I think it was. fight's a little bit ways away, so we can hopefully catch it.
Leadership fight's not going to happen, dude. What are you saying? You honestly believe? Hold on, this motherfucker thinks that we're going to hold the house. Oh my God. Okay, yeah, sure. You asked me those leadership position questions when the time comes around. Okay. All right. We'll see you later. Okay. That was incredible.
Okay. So Jackson, you understand there is going to be a leadership fight, regardless of whether the Democrats hold the House. That there is a leadership fight. If they are in the majority, then it's for the speakership. And if they're in the minority, then it's just for the leadership. In other words, Kevin McCarthy is the leader of the Republicans in the minority. You understand how this works, right?
So first of all, I do want to address the fact that you just completely changed the subject when you were getting pressed. But yes.
No, I didn't change the subject. You don't think, like, you expect.
So they've been for 7 minutes now, they've been spatting. They've been just going at each other, attack. They're not talking. They're kind of semi-attacking.
6 members of the squad to change the votes in the Senate, and it doesn't work that way.
When did I ever say that, Sam?
Well, because you said, what concessions would they get? And I said, they passed the Build Back Better bill, which you didn't seem to understand in the House. And they did pass it in the House. And then you said, but what's the scientific legislation? And I said, that's because it got stopped in the Senate. And 6 members of the House cannot control it.
I'm being really respectful right now, but you continue to talk over me.
Don't be. Oh, that's what he says. Don't be. And his whole crew chuckles at that.
Don't be. Do whatever you want.
Let me go.
I don't know if you could hear that, but his whole crew chuckled at that.
When you talk about speakership votes, that implies that there's going to be a Democratic majority.
I spoke about leadership votes. Leadership votes. Play it again. He didn't hear it. Play it again. Hold on, Jack.
If you play it again, I'm trying to talk about.
It's my show, Ding Dong. Play it again.
I'm going to go off and say what I'm going to say about.
You're chuckling again. You're laughing at him again.
Wait, I've been trying to get out for
my show.
You can do it again, but you just misspoke. You said I said speakership, and I said leadership. So let's play it again.
Even if the end of that conversation, the end of the conversation was about leadership, and it was. Do you think that the speakership matters as much as what you say? You honestly believe? Hold on, this motherfucker thinks that we're gonna hold the House. Oh my! That the speakership.
Is he still muted?
Am I muted? Can you hear me?
He may not come back.
Can you hear me?
They just come back. His first reaction.
Can you hear me?
Oh, might not come back.
A few more times. It might be a complex setup.
He's got a pretty crazy setup going on. All I do is see myself twice.
You muted me.
Did he go away?
Hello. My mic is still on. My mic is still on. Can you hear me?
All right, well, Jackson, you want to come back? You can come back. If not,
I'm here.
You can say goodbye.
I'm here. You fucking muted me. You're full of shit.
We can keep him on if you want.
I'll just keep him in this side.
You muted me. I don't even know how to reach out to you.
Am I still on the screen?
Yeah, you are.
Okay.
You muted me.
Do number, what's this one?
My whole audience can hear me right now. You muted
Do
me.
this one.
Fucking bitch.
See if that gets him to
They
come
muted
back.
me.
This is the thing. Sometimes I think Jackson's maybe not as necessarily as truthful. He says, lies my parents told me when I was little. This is just from
Bro,
I guess
they
from
muted me. I swear
Santa
to
is
God.
real. The Tooth Fairy leads me.
So yeah, we'll see the other side of this. I mean, the whole time you can hear Jackson just cussing and swearing. Oh, he gets so mad. That's where he kind of lost the debate for me. He came back from this just so mad. He couldn't let it. He had it, he said they couldn't rattle him, and they rattled him right here.
Money under your pillow.
Fucking cunts. Fucking cunts. They muted me. They kicked me off. They muted me. Absolute fucking disrespectful. That is a quit on their end, and I win. They muted me. And my fucking camera doesn't work. I don't know what the fuck happened to this. They muted me. Let me try my camera again. Fuck. They muted me, bro. You guys can still hear me. There's no way I could have muted myself on their own thing. The host muted me and never unmuted me. That's a quit on their end. That's a fucking L for Sam Seder. Fucking bitch. That was the biggest bitch move I've ever heard in my fucking life. Sam Seder just muted me after my camera stopped working. Why the fuck is my camera broken? God fucking shit. What a little bitch. What a Weasley little fucking bitch. What a Weasley little bitch, bro. He muted me. You guys all still heard me. The host muted me when they played that dumbass fucking video again. This is insane. Well, I guess he just didn't want to debate me. Let me see if I can get this camera working again, because it's not working.
Right?
I don't really know what happened here.
It's not working, man.
I can't believe that. Tamara, thank you for the super chat.
This was all planned.
Without a doubt, they muted me.
Sam Seder ran like Crowder ran from him.
Yeah, I agree.
I was over their stream right now, so I didn't get to hear all this.
I've never had that happen in a debate before. Muting me and then acting like you didn't just mute me. I mean, bro, that's... That's crazy. That's actually crazy. Thank you, trans Marxists, for the gifted sub. That's actually just wild. I'm just gonna leave this up here so you guys can look at something. Stay human. Thank you for the super chat.
CIA tactics.
Without a doubt.
Well, serious. Is hilarious.
Not the time for my camera to stop working. Not a good time for my camera to stop working. Add source. Add new source. Camel link. God, why is this shit not working? Camera time is stream for hours every day. Thank you for the gifted subs. They are inviting you back? Alright, well, how are they reaching out to me? They muted me.
They are inviting you back.
How are they inviting me back? Because they're the ones who muted me.
We're at 100 miles an hour. It's freaking hilarious.
Is he messaging me on Twitter? Because I don't see it on Twitter. Let me message Sam. I mean, like, they muted me. And now they want to invite me back because they realize I fucking am going to call them out. I have 2,000 people watching. And that doesn't look good for them. Cannot believe.
I was over on his stream during this, and there was, Jackson was up to about 1,700 on YouTube, and he had 300 plus on Twitch, and that doesn't include the handful he gets on Rumble and Rockfin as well. So he had 2,500 plus watching. Seder had 4,500 to 5,000 watching at that time on YouTube, and I don't know. He always kind of makes fun of the side, the other places I watch on Rockfin, and I'll watch stuff on Rumble. I have an account. I don't go there a ton, but I watch a lot on Rockfin, and I don't know if Sam just hates it or he's made fun of it before, so I don't know if he's on him or not. I've never looked him up because I would never look him up. Never.
They did that. Cannot believe they did that.
Ever.
Cannot believe they did that.
Ever.
I don't see any emails from them. I've got no emails. So if they're telling me that they're inviting me back, that is equally as much bullshit as when they said they unmuted me. Let me try clicking the old link again. Can you hear me?
An example he gave, AOC voted the right way.
I'll jump off so you guys can see. I'm on my way more.
Bro, like, first of all, it's not working.
She's gonna jump off so she can be the moderator. The one thing I can take from this whole debate was Emma was not a moderator. You can't be a moderator if you're only for one person, but she was not moderating at all. She was jumping in, and it made it worse. Her voice made it worse. And I was watching, and Sabby Sabs was throwing stuff in there, and Nick Cruz under MMA. Oh crap! What is this? But yeah, they were. If somebody knows that, please throw it on there. But they were both commenting on it, like, "Come on, man!" Like,
Second of all, your host muted me. I don't know who that was, but your host muted me.
That was me.
Okay. Yeah. And then I never unmuted my thing. I never touched any of my stuff on my end. And then you guys claimed that I muted myself. You guys muted me and tried to get me off the stream.
Matt just said it. No, you're back.
I just said I muted you because you're talking about.
We did that fairly quick.
Why didn't you unmute me when it was over? And then you claimed that I muted myself.
Jackson, talking to me. Let me just clarify. I asked you to unmute yourself. You'll notice in the chat I said, "Are you able to unmute yourself?" And you left. But now that everything's sorted out, I can accept the camera.
Welcome.
If you muted me, why didn't you just unmute me?
I tried to. Jackson.
You're back. Let me explain. Let me just explain for everybody because I don't want this to be the thing that they hang their hat on. It says ask to unmute yourself. So I asked you to unmute yourself. You had to affirmatively unmute yourself. You didn't do that. But now, that's what I said actually right before you got in there. So
you said that in the chat, but you didn't. I'm not reading the chat. I mean, I didn't even know there was a chat in here. But all right, let's keep talking. So my question, Sam, was.
Yeah, I mean that it was negative for a moment, and then it stayed negative for a while. I mean, they spatted the whole time, like I said, guys. I did have a couple other segments, but while we're here, let's look at Sam Seder's side of this. I believe I have it right here, but. So this
things that we're going to hold the house. Oh my God. Okay, yeah, sure. You asked me those leadership position questions. Around. Okay. All right.
So Jackson, continue.
You have to unmute yourself, Jackson.
Is he still muted?
He may not come back. His first reaction, he may not come back.
Ask him to unmute a few more times. It might be a complex setup he's got down there.
He's got a pretty crazy setup going on. All I do is see myself twice. Did he go away? All right, well, Jackson, you want to come back? You can come back. If not, we can say goodbye. We can keep him on. Come on.
I'll just keep him on the side.
Oh, am I still on the screen? Still on the screen?
Yeah, you are.
Okay. Do number, what's this one?
What's this one?
Do this one.
What's this one?
Okay. See if that gets him to come back. This is a thing. Sometimes I think Jack.
See if we can poke at him, get the, oh man, like just ignorance. And just for everybody, I want to make sure I put this in the middle of the screen here. Jackson has a very respectable Sam Seder versus Jackson Hinkle debate on Fraud Squad. That's what Sam and Jackson's debate looks like on Jackson's page. But Sam's page, oh boy, Sam debates electoral politics with a Jimmy Dore fan. That's what he comes at him with. Like, come on, man. Like, dick move.
Since maybe not as necessarily as truthful. He says, lies my parents told me when I was little. This is just from I guess from a year ago. Santa is real. The tooth fairy leaves money under your pillow. The United States military is fighting wars to defend our country. And then his dad responded, this is the only way that I knew him before this whole thing. I'm Santa. You never complained when you got the gifts. Yes, we were such assholes sneaking you money under your pillow. Never once did your mother and I tell you the military is fighting wars to defend our country. That's a bold-faced lie on your part. Did Jackson leave?
Yeah.
He's gone. All right. That's okay. Because I wanted to ask him about that, because as a parent...
That's okay. I wanted to ask him about that tweet. Like, you're having a debate with somebody who has 30, 40,000 followers. I mean, total followers. You're like, oh, whatever. I got a few minutes in. Whatever. Who cares? No big deal. What a dick.
I want to know if there's actually tension between them or if that was funny, because I feel like I would do that to my kids at one point. But all right, let's take a break, and we'll come back and wrap up the show. And maybe Emma's just come back in so we can do the show. I don't think he wants to come back.
No, I think that. Well, I think we'll put it down to the technical confusion.
I don't think he wants to come back, is what Sam has to say. Like, he's been promoting this debate for like ever since it started. Been trying to like jack it up for a week, and I don't think he wants to come back. I don't think he wants to debate me. I think we got enough in. I think we're good, right? I mean, we're good, right? 35, 40 minutes, we're good, right?
Yeah, go down there. Yeah, but yeah. I think I got all points covered.
I think so.
We didn't get to the squad is the spear point fascism in the United States, but maybe I can.
Do you want to give me that opportunity to say that? We should let's play that.
Yeah. Do we have the squad is the fascism?
It's not just that they're worse, that they're better than Manchin, but they're also the vanguard of fascism in this country.
Just let him be a D-list actor, and let's not have to pay attention to him anymore. It'd be great.
Mine is the other one.
This is the thing I think was like a little bit disingenuous.
I feel like there's a little bit of Mott and Bailey if you want to look that up debating term where you take a stronger position in one time and a more defensible position when you're being called on. But here's a little bit on the squad.
Are Democrats the new fascists with their COVID concentration camp? I think that, as I've said before, and I literally got, it went semi-viral on Twitter when I said it, but I stand by it 100%. I said that fascism in the United States will come from progressive, like woke circles, like the Squad, for example. I truly believe this is just further proof of that. You know, this is just further proof of that. So, I think,
So it's not just that they didn't leverage their vote to get progressive concessions when there was a 12% increase in the State Department budget. It's that they're the vanguard of fascism in this country.
I mean, my concern is that what if we did force a vote and then all the squad members did vote for Medicare for All and then we supported them and then they did fascism on us?
That would have been the real...
That's right where we want us.
If they're getting all these... Here's the amazing thing. On one hand, they're getting this preferential treatment where they're allowed to negotiate with Biden, but on the other hand, they're not leveraging their votes.
Yeah.
Now, presumably, they would leverage their votes to get negotiations with Biden.
Yeah, well, they get the opportunity to be ignored by Joe Biden.
But I don't understand how you're supposed to leverage to get something, and that's different than getting preferential treatment from it.
I don't understand why we thought we himself. He's coming back. I'm back. Yeah, sorry about that. Oh, my mic was off? Why did he think muting himself would mute you?
No, I muted him because he was talking over the clip.
Oh.
And, he wasn't able to
unmute himself. Gotcha.
Oh, you muted him? I thought he muted him.
Yeah, no. So that is, when I watched the whole thing again through Sam's side, they muted him for, I mean, the two of them were talking over each other for many parts of this whole segment. Many parts. But because they muted him, he couldn't unmute himself, and then they somehow lost him. And that's, you know, and they just try to blow it off. But that's, so yeah, that's Mutgate, and now they move into talking to him.
Does he have the link? He could come back in.
Yeah.
I mean, he's welcome to. If he can get it, maybe he can get his camera set up again too. We can go around too. He's got the link there for him if he wants.
I told him we have an hour. He can come back on if he wants to.
I think he might just rather complain about it, but we'll see.
He's already got the.
He might just want to complain
put
about
up those.
it, but we'll see. Yeah, they were talking a little more shit than that. I think they edited out about a minute because it was 9 minutes on Jackson's side, and I believe that was about 5 minutes on this side.
Those videos again. The where's that thing of all the stuff, all the memes he's put on Twitter.
Should I come back? If he wants to rejoin, I don't want to be here in case. I don't know.
I don't think he's. I don't
want him to feel ganged up on because he clearly has a lot.
Maybe you should just leave. And she doesn't want him to feel ganged up on. The next 45 minutes of the debate, the two of them constantly jump in, and it's 3-on-1 for like, I don't know, maybe only 6 or 8 minutes, but it's 3-on-1 for a couple minutes here and there. So I don't want him to feel ganged up on, but I will be ganging up on him soon.
I'm looking at the chat.
Emma sucks.
His fans are very upset. So I think it's just
he can come back.
I want to say,
yeah.
Tell him to come.
He's got a Zoom link,
He
right?
clearly had some technical difficulties, so if he wants to come back for round 2, I think that's the best thing for everybody. He can clear up some of these
He
questions.
can fix his camera. He can sort it all out. We can.
Let's see. Let's read some of our shop. World class illustrator. I can't believe he scheduled an hour for this garbage. Well, I made like he was nice about understanding my.
Oh, he's back. Okay, cool.
And then his audience, I can't believe you scheduled an hour for this garbage. Dude, you're debating somebody with an audience. You should always be up to debate somebody with an audience if you're a debater, which Sam says he is, and Jackson hangs his hat on it. And they read that. It's not even a paid call out. It's just they highlighted it and read it, and now they're about to go back on with them. I just wanted to show you the two sides. I think it's about 5 minutes on their side and about 9 minutes on Jackson's side. So there's 3 to 4 minutes unaccounted for. We could go through this a few more times and try to figure it out, but I watched it live, and I mean, there was a lot of swearing on their end. It was pretty crazy.
Death pull from the future. Hinkle keeps complaining about AOC, but in the one example he gave, AOC voted the right way.
I'll jump off so you guys can see. I'm on.
Well, first of all, my camera's not working. Second of all, your host muted me. I don't know who that was, but your host muted me. Okay. And then I never unmuted my thing. I never touched any of my stuff on my end. And then you guys claimed that I muted myself. You guys muted me and tried to get me off the stream.
I just said no, back.
I just said I muted you because you're talking.
We did that.
Why didn't you unmute me when it was over? And then you claimed that I muted myself.
Jackson's talking to me. Just clarify. I asked you to unmute yourself.
Yeah, just to give you a perspective of how they looked at it, Jackson was pissed and swearing, and they were ditching on him and swearing. They were hitting him and swearing. It was a little crazy. I do have some more to say about the debate, but I wouldn't call it a debate per se, because they just got so snippy and smacked and yelling at each other. It wasn't that fun. It wasn't that great. There was an actual discussion today. Savvy Sabs and I can't remember her guess, but they had several not agreements where they had to kind of confrontationally argue with each other, and it was good. It was a good, lively discussion, and you can have discussions, you can have debates. You don't have to constantly snap at each other, and most of this was just them snapping at each other. I did have I did have 2 or 3 more snippets I wanted to pull out, but take a break from the debate for a minute here. Looks like we lost a few people anyway, so take a break for a few minutes and go to our next segment, and I'll come back to the rest of the debate, the other I don't cares, and a few other things I wanted to highlight. But one of the things I want to do on a regular basis would be, do I have it on the stream? All right. So one of the other things I wanted to do was go on to the White House press briefings. Jen Psaki goes on some fantastic rampades and some snappy, angry yells, and I think she deserves her time in the world. So let's give her time today. I found a few minute segment here that definitely was my favorite. I watch it every day. and I don't think you should have to. So let's check out Jen today.
And people need to understand and digest that. Go ahead.
Jen, what preparations is the White House engaged in broadly in the case of a Supreme Court vacancy?
I'm just not going to detail any of that from here.
Unrelated to this, you can't detail what, like, doesn't every White House like to get ahead of this in case of a sudden passing in the case of Ruth Bader Ginsburg? None of that you can share?
I'm not going to detail internal planning from here, no.
And let me ask you a couple other questions. Is there any scenario in which the president would select his Vice President Kamala Harris for the Supreme Court?
Again, I'm not going to speak to any considerations, preparations, lists, and as we've stated earlier and heard the President say, there's a long history of Supreme Court justices determining when they may retire, if they retire, and announcing that. And we're going to, that remains the case today.
Clearly you are more wiser than to take those questions then. So I'll ask you about a different topic, and that's Vladimir Putin, the President, saying yes, that he would very much consider personally sanctioning him in the case of a Russian invasion. Can you give us a sense, because Russia has dismissed or sort of poo-pooed that idea, what would sanctioning Vladimir Putin...
Does Russia have a role in determining our sanctions?
No, but they've said that it would have no impact. So what impact would sanctioning Vladimir Putin have on him, and what would that look like?
Well, I think what's important to know broadly is that what we've also said is that it will be far beyond any sanctions package would be far beyond what was done in 2014. And that includes impacting business and economic interests of President Putin and the leadership of the Russian government. I would also note that while it has been our policy that we are not going to take options off the table from here, and we haven't, we also have been detailed what isn't in an initial package, and that doesn't mean that everything out there that's being talked about is in an initial package. Go ahead.
Thank you. When you were asked about the Vice President possibly being selected as a Supreme Court nominee, you said you're not going to speak to any considerations. Does that mean she is being considered?
Again, Peter, I'm not going to speak to the...
This is why I picked this. I absolutely love the bats between the Fox people, the right-wing people, and her. It's always fun. That's probably got to... I mean, if you watch any White House press briefings, it's got to be the best part. So I think this is going to be about our halftime, almost halftime. So let's hit your pens, hit your joints, and let's enjoy this little bat.
Reports of a Supreme Court justice retirement that hasn't been announced.
So theoretically, would someone who's...
Theoretically, I do like that you preface it. I appreciate that.
Just wondering, hypothetically, theoretically, would someone who was Attorney General of a large state and who served with many key Senate votes be an attractive candidate to the President for an open Supreme Court seat?
I see what you did there, Peter. But the President has every intention, as he said before, of running for re-election, and for running for re-election with Vice President Harris on the ticket as his partner. But again, I will just reiterate that I have nothing more to offer in terms of specifics or information on the reports this morning. Would you have another question?
Yes.
Go ahead. I know there's other things on your mind, on your list over there.
Now you guys have submitted the written responses to Russia's demands. They are saying, if we do not receive a constructive answer from the West on our security demands, Moscow will take appropriate measures. Is that a threat?
Well, let me first say that the aggressor here, as maybe you're echoing in some ways or raising, is Russia. Russia has tens of thousands.
That was, oh man. How do you look so threatening while say the threat is Russia? That's just, I'm sorry I'm laughing before the punchline, but
Thousands of troops at the border. They have the ability also to make the decision to de-escalate, to bring troops back from the border, to participate in good faith in a diplomatic conversation, and that would certainly be our preference. So them making threats, I think Secretary Blinken had a very good quote, or it made me laugh, that he gave a couple of days ago where he said it was like the fox threatening to attack the hens in the hen house because they were feeling threatened by the hens. But our objective is to give them paths and to take part in a diplomatic conversation in good faith.
And as the Russians talk about appropriate measures, if one of those winds.
Every single person in this had asked 2 to 3 questions about Russia or Ukraine. That's why I don't want to do the whole thing again. I would love a press briefing where there would be just as diverse questions about all these different topics, but they always end up being like, so 2 weeks ago, Russia and Ukraine was one question of the whole day, and now it is every single person asking 1 or 2 of their questions on this.
The being a Russian cyber attack, like DHS is warning about, do you guys consider that an act of war?
Well, Peter, we have talked many times before. First of all, there's no information we have at this point about any imminent threat against the U.S. homeland. We are always prepared for cyber threats from a range of sources, and we have a range of tools at our disposal to use in reaction, and the president reserves the right to do that, but I'm not going to get into a hypothetical.
On COVID origins, you guys are talking a lot about sanctions for Russia if they dare to invade Ukraine. What about sanctions for China at any point for misleading the world about the early days of the global pandemic?
We have used sanctions as a tool as it relates to our concerns about the behavior of a range of countries, including officials in China, but I have nothing to preview for you at this point.
Is it possible down the line, though, that sanctions would be considered some other form of punishment for their actions in the earliest days of the pandemic?
Well, you know, we strongly believe, and the president has been clear and directly clear about the importance of them being transparent and providing data and information.
And you know this.
Related to the origins of the pandemic, but I don't have anything to predict for you in terms of additional actions.
So then my last one would be, the president said for months that he had not spoken directly to Xi about the COVID origins investigation. Now he says that he did talk to Xi about it, but nobody else was there. If the president had that conversation, did it work? And is Xi now playing ball?
What are you getting at there? Are you suggesting the president wasn't being honest about his own conversation with Xi?
No, but the story did change for months. He was asked about it, and he said that he had not directly asked him about the COVID origins investigation.
We don't share every.
Oh my goodness, that was so great. That was just so much to me. Yeah, so I started watching White House press briefings back when Sean Spicer was doing it, and I literally would watch it every morning. And then, like a month or so into it, that's when Saturday Night Live started hitting them. But you know, these things were so fantastic; they were just so funny, and this is the kind of stuff that it's hilarious. Just the questions are straight up boring, and she's still got to just swing.
Detail of every diplomatic conversation. You know that. The president answered a direct question just a week ago, or I think it was a week ago, yes, and provided that information.
You know this.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
You know this.
When was the last time the president talked to Justice Breyer? Have they had any communication today?
I don't have any more details of their communications.
And I wanted to clear this up because there seems to be some disagreement among some legal scholars. Is it your understanding and understanding of this administration that the vice president can be the tie-breaking vote to confirm a nominee to the board?
I would have to check on the specifics of that.
And just one more on the president's Supreme Court commission. I believe they finished their report that turned in last month. Has the president had a chance to review this? Might we hear from him on any decision or info that he's in?
He has received the report. I don't have any update on his analysis of it at this point in time. Go ahead.
Take you somewhere completely different.
Okay, let's go there.
The China bill.
Yes.
Which the president last night in a statement said he's heartened by bipartisan work on the package, which it was in the Senate, not so much in the House.
Again, bipartisan bill. That means they are screwing us both. No. It means they're both screwing us. So we can leave it at that. And that's enough of Jen Psaki today. But yeah, a lot of China, a lot of Ukraine and Russia, and not a lot of independent thought or independent questions. So we are going to move on, and let's knock out the middle of our segment today with a stony progressive takedown of yesterday's video of Nancy Pelosi. So this is Nancy Pelosi in this video yesterday. Made me want to do this.
Gender equality here. Maybe I don't. Let's see.
Abby Martin with the Empire Files. Speaker Pelosi, you just presided over a large increase in the Pentagon budget. This Pentagon budget is already massive. The Pentagon is a larger polluter than 140 countries combined. How can we seriously talk about net zero if there is this bipartisan consensus to constantly expand this large contributor to climate change, which is exempt from these conferences? Military is exempt from climate talks.
Well, I just want to use an example if I...
So important, I'm playing this twice today, all the way through, and so important, this guy had to jump in. So welcome to the Stony Progressives Takedown. You
can. You know, the sea level rise is an important part of, what's happening to the climate. And I'm not a defense person, but I've had so many talks.
As his name begins to fade, I literally wrote down Frank Pallone, whatever. I didn't even write where he was from. I just wrote it down yesterday. I was like, you're it. You jumping in, stepping in to help Nancy Jackass Pelosi, and not letting her answer a question to whom she called on Abby. She called on Abby. You got to let her answer that question.
With the Defense Department, with the Navy in particular, about how they have to respond to what's going on. So I really do think that there is no reason why what we're putting together, with Build Back Better and other things, can't respond to the Defense Department and have the same impact in terms of reducing emissions. And I do think that the Defense Department...
So you admit they can do that, but there's nothing in anything right now that includes the military. So you think that this can do it, but we're not currently looking at it. I mean, you think it should and could, but we're not looking at it.
Department is very much aware of the fact that they have to play a major role, both from a strategic as well as, for the good of the world. So I don't see what we're doing in any way, or, increasing the defense budget as being something that's inconsistent with climate action. I really don't.
And may I just add that national security advisors all tell us that the climate crisis is a national security matter. It is, of course, a health matter for our children, the water they drink, the air they breathe, etc. It is a jobs issue between clean technologies being the future of our workforce and the training for all of that. It is a national security issue because of the all of the conditions that climate crisis produces. I won't go into all of them, but they do cause.
Well, thank you so much, Frank Pallone, whatever, that for giving her time to come up with this great answer. We listened to it last night. We don't need to hear it again today, but so yeah, this is why I decided to go for it, because Nancy's horrible. Abby made a fantastic question. They both kind of sidestepped the question because they agree that it could be looked at, but no one's looking at it yet. No one's taken a glance at it yet, so they can't pretend like it's happening. It is avoided in every national climate, massive climate change operations. They always omit military from that. So, Frank Pallone Jr., Long Branch, New Jersey, the 6th District of New Jersey, and his office is 202-225-4671, 202-225-4671. If he's in your district or you hate him that much, go ahead and give him a call. The only way politicians move is when they hear massive flooding of voter annoyances. So you tell them you're a voter, you tell them you're annoyed, they might listen to you. So he's a Democratic representing 6th District, and he got in office in 1993. All right, well, any problems yet? Any? I would think there's a few. So he's been in office since 93. So we're going to go ahead and put him in as a long time, needs to be removed. Ooh, and I saw one of my favorite words down here. So he is the chairman of the Energy and Commerce Committee. That is 2019. So that happened, oh man, recently. And he was a superdelegate in 2016 Democratic National Convention, the convention where the superdelegates pushed Hillary over Bernie way before the election was over. They called several states way before the election was over. That wonderful election, he was one of those people that helped push the election the wrong way. Thank you so much. That was fantastic of you. Good on ya. Career, he went to Middlebury College, went to law school, went to Rutgers, was a city council member after Rutgers, so he didn't pass this law along before he was a city council member. Then a member of the state senate, Congress since 89. Wow, also 89, then he got a different district in 93. So really he's been in there for almost most of my life, just about all of my life. So yeah, he might need to be removed. Ooh, that's a lot of zeros. Yeah, he's worth a little bit of money too. He's they haven't talked to the Senate really, so he's worth over $4 million. And he's been in Congress his entire life as a lawyer. I guarantee that's not right. So let's go to Open Secrets. Check out our gentleman here. They don't have career because he's been in so long. They don't even have career. I forgot about that. Yeah, so his small net worth, because most of Congress is worth just ridiculous amounts of money, but the median household in his neighborhood is only worth $800,000, where he's worth over a few million. So he's richer than anybody in his neighborhood, or at least the neighborhood he claims to live in. But that doesn't mean anything, because I've said many times these people can have post boxes in the towns they're supposedly living in, but they don't have to actually live there, and they can get away with it. People get away with it all the time. Oh crap, that's right. They did not find hold on. Yeah, that disappeared. I tried that several times today. So his campaign finance information disappeared. This man who's only worth a few million after being a lawyer, career politician. Open Secrets has it on everybody, and I found this earlier when I researched them, but since then it's been disappeared and gone. So good on you, man. You found a way to get through. But I found a video on
Examine a truly 21st century issue: the energy and environmental impacts of cryptocurrencies. In the last decade and a half, we've seen an explosion of blockchain technology and digital currencies, or cryptocurrencies. Concepts that once seemed futuristic have begun to enter the daily lives and digital wallets of everyday Americans. Bitcoin alone grew to a market cap of more than $900 billion last year. Blockchain technology and cryptocurrency bring enormous promise, and this hearing is not intended to stifle that promise or to discourage innovation. I mean, this is the Innovation Committee. But we want to examine the potential environmental costs of the crypto mining industry and what can be done to address those impacts. So right now, some blockchains are consuming enormous.
Never want to look at anything that has to do with environmental impacts when you do any of your other legislation. Ever. There has never been environmental impact on any of your minds before this kind of person, and now you're going to care about the environmental impact because of crypto.
Energy. One estimate found that the energy required to process transactions on the Bitcoin network could power a home for more than 70 days. Last year, there were hundreds of thousands of transactions on this network, and just imagine the climate implications. Another estimate found that 2021 carbon emissions from Bitcoin and Ethereum crypto mining were 78.8 million tons of carbon, roughly equivalent to the tailpipe emissions for more than 15.5 million gasoline-powered cars on the road every year. And as this committee continues its work,
or 1 month of military operations in anywhere at all, pick a place.
To combat the worsening climate crisis, it's critical that we examine these impacts. I look forward to hearing about the possibilities the crypto mining industry may bring in support of new renewable energy deployment, grid stabilization, and other innovations that may reduce energy consumption and have applications far beyond the crypto mining industry itself. President Biden has set forth ambitious climate goals to reduce U.S. emissions by 50% from 2005 levels in 2030, create a 100% carbon pollution-free power sector by 2035, and achieve a net zero economy by 2050. Now, to achieve these important goals, we cannot bring retired fossil fuel plants back online or delay the retirement of some of our oldest and least efficient power plants in support of energy-intensive crypto mining activities.
Really? I mean, we all of a sudden, yeah, I can't, I mean, it's the same thing, but come on, like, we see it, right? A person like this is not, I'm still going to say every incumbent needs to go. None of them are worthwhile having. I mean, out of everybody I've looked at so far, I would have to say there's one that could maybe stay and not be ruined, but we just get rid of all incumbents. Go ahead and do it.
Particularly in light of the cleaner blockchain technologies that already exist. We need to be thinking about ways to encourage innovations that improve our energy grid, increase the mix of clean energy supporting it, and improve energy efficiency across industries. And this committee and Congress have taken steps to further these goals already. The Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and the Build Back Better Act collectively provide the funding and resources our country needs to upgrade our power infrastructure and make clean energy even more affordable and accessible. These investments in our future will reduce greenhouse gas pollution, build a clean power grid, create jobs in support of the clean energy transition, and provide cheaper energy. It's also important to focus on how crypto mining can affect the affordability of electricity for American consumers. I was struck by the example of Plattsburgh, New York, a few winters ago. Crypto mining companies flocked to the community because of the cheap electricity offered through a hydropower allotment. These same companies then caused the community to quickly use up that allotment during a particularly cold winter. And Plattsburgh was forced to purchase expensive power on the spot market, and local residents found themselves with incredibly high monthly.
We want to talk about the fact that we could have like solar power, tide power, geothermal energy regionally, so that our freaking networks weren't built into these massive network areas. We could have local energy that is only like a quarter of the state size, a third of a state size, instead of being these massive 12, 15 state power grids. Well, let's not talk about that. Nope.
Bills, some hundreds of dollars more than usual. While the industry has matured since and there are now responsible actors in this space, we should be ready to collaborate and encourage innovation and investment in clean and renewable energy. Developing more renewable energy, increasing energy efficiency, and managing demand on our energy grids are imperative to meeting our climate goals. And I look forward to hearing from our witnesses today and how the crypto mining industry may assist in achieving these goals and whether it stands ready to do so. I yield back, Madam Chair, but I do.
Yeah, so, yeah, his information is currently hidden, and he's against cryptocurrency. I'm guessing maybe that he, like, they literally, like, they have somebody, like, just hacking and destroying his information because he's so tied with the big banks that they're letting him get away. And if you attack cryptocurrency, you're going to get attacked by people who are currently off the chain or trying to, you know, live a life that's not so built into the bank system. And those kind of people won't take lightly to attacking them. So that's our takedown of the day. Not worth much of a takedown, but he's hidden, he's corrupt, he's been in there forever, just like Pelosi. And that's why he stood up for Pelosi, because that's his good old buddy for 40 years now, 35 years. And he won't let that happen. So good for him. Don't reelect him. You know anybody in New Jersey, send something negative their way. All right. Let's check out a little something from Nico. He had a couple quick clips. I wanted to pop in and say hi to him.
All right, so the situation between Russia and Ukraine just hit a whole new level. Joe Biden just announced that he is finalizing orders to send 50,000 troops to the Ukrainian border under the claim that Russia plans on invading the Ukraine. Now, let me be very clear about something. That's actually not what's happening. Russia has troops on its own borders in response to the neo-Nazis and the allied groups there and their aggression towards both Russia and East Ukraine, which is a whole different game. So we're sending more troops to a country about to piss off one of the biggest military superpowers in the world. Peace.
Yeah, that's Nico House. You have one more I want to check out.
All right, so we have some breaking news. Julian Assange's legal team is now being allowed to appeal the UK court's decision to extradite Julian Assange to the United States. Now, this is a huge deal because everybody thought that unfortunately Assange would be dead in the water. After the U.S. team was allowed to grant the UK courts assurances that actually affected their decision to originally deny the extradition of Julian Assange to the United States. This is the only time in history that we've actually seen assurances allowed to be granted after, and then introduced, of course, in an appellate court to change the outcome of a case that literally has precedent and will set precedent around the world. So the Supreme Court will hear it there. Hopefully, justice will be done, and hopefully they will overturn this egregious decision to allow the U.S. Legal team to basically do whatever it wants to. All right, so we have some breaking.
So yeah, that was Nico House of MSC Network, the Convo Couch. A lot of good on the floor recording and straight talk. So always worth a check out. Feel free to go hit them up all the time, guys. They are Convo Couch, Nico House, always worth a check out. Let's go back. And I want to check this out today. Yesterday was a massive day of protest.
The Tent Embassy is a beacon, it's this flickering light in the night for the Aboriginal community in terms of its unresolved historical grievances with the occupation of Australia.
The land belongs to us. We belong to the land. It is our home.
So it's National Day. Sunday was National Day in Australia. National Day being a day where they so far as nationalized the country, with England rule being part of that and ignoring the Aboriginals being a massive part of that. And so the Aboriginals have been protesting all 50 years this has been going on, this National Day, and they had a pretty good sized protest. A lot of people in the streets. I didn't see anything on this video that gave quite the size that I saw, but on the live stream yesterday, like, I don't know, 36 hours ago or so, but it's a good video.
So in 1972, at that time, there was a height of political activity and Aboriginal activism. On Australia Day, January 26th, a number of key Aboriginal activists set up the Aboriginal Dead Embassy opposite the then Parliament House, and they put up a beach umbrella as symbolic as the first state proclaiming Australia as Aboriginal land.
This thing where like invading Europeans, invading people constantly take over the land is not just the United States or South America or Central America. It's Africa, it's South Africa, obviously Australia. They push people out of land. And this is their fight back.
So I guess that started it. It grew from a few dozen tents up to about 2,000 supporters during that period of time. of course, you can imagine that at that time, the very conservative nature of Australian politics, there was a lot of pressure to try and close down the embassies. There was quite a violent clash in July of 1972, the police forcibly removing the hundreds of protesters from the lawns of the embassy. Many people were arrested, of course, and their property was torn down. Well, it certainly raised the awareness amongst the general community for the first time about very serious political activism and claims for legitimately the kind of rights of First Nation people in this country. Well, I think it's been impressive 50 years. Not many people may have liked it, or it might not have been popular with a lot of people, but the fact that the strength of the conviction and the fact that it continues to remain relevant in the eyes of Aboriginal people, and I think a greater sense of consciousness of the broader community, it's embedded now in the social and cultural consciousness of the nation, and I think that that's critically important. Sovereignty was never ceded, it was never given. So there has to be negotiations. There has to be negotiations for a formal settlement. And we still have serious matters to attend to, and I think the embassy continues to demonstrate the kind of strength of the conviction and the focal point for not only Aboriginal people's aspirations, but also certainly from the nation's point of view in relation to challenging the truth and the consciousness of this country.
Couldn't actually find any snippets on American TV, so that's what we got. When I looked it up online, I found something on Reuters, Al Jazeera, ABC News had a celebrations and protests, mark Australian Day, so I guess they had something. And then, I actually found a few things on ESPN and that the rest of American news, if you looked up Australia Day, Australia anything, it was about news or about tennis or tennis protest or something. I don't know. It was they didn't do well. But yes, this is Aboriginal land, and it is across the nation that the Aboriginal people of the nation come out and protest against Britain's colonization of the nation when there's already people there. Sound familiar? Yes, it happens everywhere. And so that was their day of protest. And tiny snippets in American TV isn't enough. Something like this should be televised worldwide, but we don't want to show protests. Maybe other nations got this news. Like I said, Reuters and BBC had it, but wasn't too much in America. So I did want to finish up with the last couple clips from this debate. I think I did these on Jackson's stream. Let us go to somewhere in here. Sorry, I didn't have the second one debated here. But I had a little something to say. I kind of snapped when I watched this the first few, I watched it live and I was cussing quite a bit, so I had to watch it a second time to even take notes. But this part of the debate was worthwhile. It's probably going to play a commercial here. Sorry. I am not well off enough for doing YouTube Live, which is like $50 a month or whatever the hell it is. Sorry, Google. You get enough for me. You don't get that too. Really, you're not going to play?
$5,600 in 2020, and then in 2018, $2,700 respectively.
Okay. All right. I didn't realize she'd received $2,700 in multiple years. And so So you're contending that they sold out for over $2,700 from George Soros.
No, if you listen to anything I just...
You gotta go back a little further.
Give me the crux of the argument. What I emailed you was about your support for the squad when I think that they are not progressive, okay? But yes, the Biden administration has...
Listen. We're just going back and forth here. All right, you've made your assessment that they're getting preferential treatment because they're not being roasted by the establishment. And then you're saying that they're getting money from George Soros?
Yes.
In the form of giving it to the Sunrise Movement?
No, Ilhan Omar received direct contributions.
How much from George Soros?
She received, let me pull it up here. She received, between George Soros, Andrea Soros, and Alex Soros, she received $2,700, $5,600 in 2020, and then in 2018, $2,700 respectively.
Okay. All right. I didn't realize she'd received $2,700 in multiple years. And so you're contending that they sold out for over $2,700 from George Soros.
No, if you listen to any...
Okay, first of all, he said $2,700, 2 separate election cycles from George Soros. Second of all, any kind of regular donation from George Soros, any kind of regular donation to a congressman from that person, that kind of wealth, that kind of wealth intimidation is going to come with strings, like hidden strings now, or it's going to come with massive bonuses somewhere down the line. And if you don't think that, or if you don't know that, you are an ignorant. Okay, that is so standard procedure. So yeah, if he's giving $2,700 2 election cycles in a row, everybody should know that is the kind of person who's got talked with and has connections with down the line, or is getting some secret big kind of payouts. And yeah. Seriously?
Anything I just said, I named numerous examples in which the squad has been given preferential treatment, and to just select that one in particular is very disingenuous.
You said Soros. I was just asking in terms of the Soros part. You said Soros was number 4, I think.
I mean, there's more I could go on to list, but again, what I want to talk about here, and what you seem to not want to talk about, and I can assume why, is your continued support for the squad, who is going along with the Democratic establishment on all these votes they could be blocking to get concessions in return. And in some cases, they're actually directly supporting anti-progressive measures and bills.
Okay, and there's no doubt that they have taken votes that I agree that I would disagree with in some instances.
A few or a lot?
I mean, a few.
How many is a few? I'm just...
All right, I actually kind of agree with Sam on this one here, and you know what? I'm gonna always be even. I'm gonna try to play fair, and I'm not gonna. Then I'm gonna give you my reaction to the entire debate after this. I do have 2 more segments towards the end of the debate that I'm gonna catch up on, and then we will wrap this debate talk up.
Curious.
I don't have a list of how many votes I don't appreciate that they've taken.
Well, I mean, don't you think there's I just want to nail you down on this, because don't you think there's a difference between, like, say a few is 3, 2 to 3. Don't you think there's a difference between 2 to 3?
And we're playing on 1 1/4 speed, because again, this was just really slow the first time through, and I had time to bitch and then come back and watch and not miss much.
3 bad votes and say like 15 or 20 bad votes?
How many votes did they take in total? And I'll tell you that I would imagine there's probably 25 to 30% of their votes that I would have a problem with off the top of my head.
I would imagine for consequential policy items, there was probably roughly like 60 to 100 consequential policy items that were voted on in this session of Congress 2021 so far. There's obviously a lot of procedural and House rules votes that get voted on every single session of Congress. So far, there's been over 400 votes in this session of Congress, but a lot of those, again, are just on amendments to bills that are eventually voted on, or just procedural votes.
But if you agree with somebody 70%, 75% of the time, that's somebody that you pretty much agree with, all right? Like, you got to be real, okay? So you can't agree with somebody 100% of the time, and if you do, then you're a fanatic or you're a hero worshiper, and I hate those kind of people. Don't be a hero worshiper. You should not agree with somebody 100% of the time.
Okay.
So you're saying that maybe 20 to 30 out of 60 are bad votes?
30%. I don't know. I mean,
you just said 20 to 30 votes out of potentially 60 to 100 were bad. So is that something that you would necessarily support? I mean, I just don't really understand. Why don't you criticize the squad?
Honestly, that's all you can agree with somebody. Like, you can be mad and you can try to push those people, which I agree with. You can push those people, which I agree with, but you can't be mad that somebody disagrees with you 20 to 30% of the time. That's how the world is. If you find somebody 100% of the time, that's amazing. That's just insane. And please find out if they're a fanatic or a hero worshiper, because that's scary.
On all of these things, I've heard you criticize them like once and every so often, but you don't criticize them on all of these bad votes. And I don't understand how you plan to hold them accountable if you're not criticizing them.
Well, I mean, I do. I mean, I don't know if you watch every one of our shows.
Did you criticize them? Did you criticize them when AOC funneled $160,000 to DCCC corporate Democrats after promising not to?
Actually, first of all, I actually didn't criticize that.
Why not?
Actually, I'll tell you why. Because I think part of the strategy in which they deployed, and she said, we should say that she did these in incremental ones, right? There was like 2,000s a pop, if I'm not mistaken, right?
They were 5,000.
Okay, 5,000. I think there's value in doing that, because I think that what politicians should do, broadly speaking, is go in and try and get legislation that is positive passed. And so if
what positive legislation have they gotten passed by donating to those DCCC candidates?
Well, the Build Back Better bill passed in the House.
Did it pass in the Senate?
No, but she didn't give to senators.
So what legislation has the squad voted for, and it's also passed in the Senate, that you think is good and directly resulted in them donating $5,000 to DCCC candidates? Don't you also think, wait, Sam, don't you also think that given that AOC...
Yeah, I mean, 25% of the vote is enough. For, like, if you disagree with somebody 20 to 25% of the time, that's actually a pretty good candidate in your arena. You have to back them up. So I kind of lose Jackson on that. Like, sorry, like sorry. I kind of lose Jackson on that right there. Okay. Go to the next. I want to jump through these next two segments, the quicker, fast segments, and then we will go to my final opinion here.
Jackson.
So you have to pay $5,000 to 32 different DCCC candidates to get anything done?
I mean, it greases the wheels. Yeah.
It greases the wheels. So what if I told you instead of playing softball politics and greasing the wheels, which is all, don't interrupt me. You've interrupted me so many times.
I don't care. Cry about it. I don't care.
Interrupted me so many times. I'll let you talk. Now let me talk. What if I told you instead of greasing
things that don't mean anything? Softball politics. What does that mean?
So I want to cut that bit right there and just have his voice with Hugo from Bob's Burgers. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. You keep saying things that don't mean anything. I don't care. Like, oh God, his voice, man. It was meant for a cartoon face. Really, it was. That was. All right. So that was that segment there. That was just a bit. Sorry, a bit. And then I have this marked down, so let's give it a bit.
No.
You still support the fundamental strategy of forcing the vote, right?
What are you talking about? Force the vote? No, I do not sell. The idea of forcing a vote on something is stupid.
Yeah, the problem was.
All right, so this was a triple team. This is one of like 4 or 5 times that they do it the second half, but this is my favorite one because remember, again, Emma said at her halftime was like, "Hey, come back, Jackson, and we'll get you back one-on-one. I don't want to be on the stream and scare him away because he'll feel like he's getting." Multiple group team or whatever.
Of course, made all about a vote.
So you don't think that
hey, don't say shit up.
You don't think that progressives?
I want you to apologize.
You don't think progressives should?
No, you say that. I think progressives should leverage their power. Yes.
So that's called forcing the vote.
No, it's not.
You just said 1 minute ago that I don't want to use the phrase "force the vote." I want to use the phrase.
You guys made that up. You guys made that
is different.
Because it's what you use your leverage for, Jackson.
You made that up. I mean, except that it's actually like a whole freaking hashtag. It's a movement. It's a thing. It's absolutely a thing. So even if they made it up, it has been a thing for 13 months now. So you can just go ahead and move past it. 14 months now. You can go ahead and move past it. You can get past the point where you pretend like you don't know it. So stop calling you did that. You did this.
Okay? Look, I don't want to get into
It's how you exert that leverage, Sam.
So the substance doesn't matter?
The substance of what strategy you employ.
So you can hear Emma very clearly, and in the back you can hear Paul Leach, I believe it is. And so all three voices are currently happening. And this has been going on for 30 seconds or so that all three voices are going on. And it continues here for a couple more minutes.
To leverage your power. That's what matters. You think
that
instead of leveraging their power, they should donate $160,000 to DCCC Democrats.
Okay, I think contributing money to people gets them to vote your way. I think there are different things that you can do to build a coalition, to pass legislation, to materially benefit people.
And what
Now,
happens
I don't know if you would have gotten those corporatists who wanted the SALT reductions and et cetera, to vote for Build Back Better, or to sign off on a provision to, let's say, have expanded child care, or whatever it is, had they not built those bridges. Maybe, maybe not. We don't know for sure. We're not privy to those conversations. You can say, I don't think it's a good strategy to, and I can tell you this, the reason why Steny Hoyer is the whip of the caucus, of the Democratic caucus, is because Steny Hoyer gets all this corporate money that he doles out. He doesn't have to do much fundraising for himself.
We're not talking about
He goes around the country and he builds support for things by donating money to different congressional candidates. And so, is there value for the number one fundraiser, who happens to be a progressive, to wield that same type of power? My answer is yes, definitively.
So
I point to you exactly where that power pays off. No, I cannot.
That's very interesting, because earlier on in this debate, you quite literally said, I had a problem.
Everyone heard the debate, Jackson. It'll be on video. You don't have to keep
I had a problem. You know what I'm talking about? You said I had a problem with AOC donating $160,000 to DCCC Democrats when she said that she wasn't going to. So my question is, you just said a moment ago.
I had that problem, Jackson.
You just said a moment ago.
No, he said we did. I had the problem.
You just said a moment ago that there
You can look at the video, Jackson.
Okay,
Whatever.
I'd love to. You just said a moment ago that there is the potential for faction.
Yeah, Emma would jump in very regularly, and it would get confusing for Jackson, I'm sure, because he's hearing audio from three different people. We don't hear that audio as well as he does, because they're on the call, where we're hearing it really good on those guys' end. On his end, we're not hearing it in the video stream as well. But the three of them were just constantly chirping in, and he was trying to. It's kind of funny. So yeah, 4-hour stream. The I don't care was the hashtag that came right out of it. It's pretty funny, and he threw 9 I don't cares in that first half of the segment. He's just, it's under his breath, it's over his breath, but I don't cares were based on the Capitol Police and politicians having no principles. They can just give up on their principles. So I agree with him that you can disagree with them 25% of the time. But I do not agree that you should just be okay with them losing their principles and being career climbers or whatever. Like, yeah, they might just lose their principles because, certain things happen or whatever. He's okay with that. And that was something he's okay with. But again, Sam Seder is a E-list actor. Jackson Hinkle, he is a political person, although he was a rich kid, a pretty boy rich kid who got Instagram famous or Twitter famous or whatever, and then tried to go for mayor and now runs the channel. So I agree with Jackson 75% of the time. So I like Jackson. Sam Seder, I get mad at least 50% of the time. So I will say, check out Jackson's show. He's usually late at night. I'm gonna try to be doing this show afterwards. And I did have one thing. I had one thing to say to finish my stream, and that was there's a General Strike Summit a little while back, and the Revolutionary Blackout Network, they did this whole thing, 3 days, had tons of people on, talk about a ton of subjects. I watched maybe 60% of it or so, and about 30% of it live. And the one thing that people don't bring up when they bring up, any sort of, and I've bring it up before in the show, but I'm gonna just keep pushing it home, is we need to have a bar and server strike. We need to get people from the service industry to say, you know what, we want change, and we are not going to come back here until change happens. And the one thing that I always seem to find is that our patrons who are everyday restaurateurs, they go out to eat every day. They don't know how to cook. They spend money every day. They're usually cheap, but they spend money every day, and they're right wing as hell. And they will change their mind if they don't have us working. And we're already short staffed. We're already overworked. We're already underpaid. People have gone well back to 15, 18%. Nobody is, in the state of Florida, 15 to 20% is pretty standard. Nobody's leaving 20 to 25% because we're in a pandemic. We're constantly getting sick. We're losing sick days. We're overworked. But if we can get some rallies together to get strikes for bartenders and servers, we can push right-wingers into just about anything. They love their drinking. They love their constant drinking and somebody kissing their ass and agreeing to their terms and saying yes to their crazy beliefs because I have to, because guess what? From my experience, at least 65, 75% of front of the house is usually Democrat left wing and usually half and half behind the house. But restaurants are not a bunch of right wingers. And even though you're a right winger and you show up every day, that doesn't mean that we can't all strike and push you to wanting something else, because you're the ones with money, not us. But we're the ones that serve you. We shut down their restaurants. We shut down their fast food. We shut down their bars and restaurants. The general strike will work. We can push people pretty hard. And yeah, so check out Revolutionary Blackout Network again for the second time again tonight, guys. I'm a big fan, and their General Strike Summit, and they're working on something to the Poor People's Convention, March, I can't remember, is moving June 18th, June 20th, going to DC, and from there I think we need to just keep pushing and pushing, and if we can get a general strike, then maybe we can do something real, because it's definitely not going to happen from any legislation or politics. They all need to be circumvented. All covenants need to be taken out, and we need to have overall general change. If we start it this summer, we can push it through to electoral politics and push it straight through and maybe actually get some change done, because by 2030 it's going to be too late. And that's my show for the night, and I will see you again tomorrow night around midnight, every night around midnight, and let's